Hello, my name is Chris Elkins, and I have the honor of serving at Denison Forum with Dr. Jim Denison, who is here with us today to talk about a subject that Americans hold near and dear to their heart. It's what does the Bible say about freedom? Recently, Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito said religious liberty is fast becoming a disfavored right. Why do you think this is, Jim?
Yeah, it's a great question. When the justice made that statement, it got national news, national coverage, of course, and understandably so. But I think he's right, unfortunately. I think it goes on two levels. The first thought has to do with truth itself, what the nature and definition of truth is. We live in a culture that's decided truth is personal, individual, and subjective. A lot of reasons for that. I think we've even done some videos on what is truth and why does the culture look at truth the way it does. I could take you all the way back to Descartes and Locke and Kant and Nietzsche and some of the philosophy behind that. But it basically boils down to what's called postmodern relativism. All truth is personal, individual, and subjective. Your truth is how your mind interprets your senses, and yours isn't mine, and so your truth isn't going to be mine, and everybody has their own truth. Well, our culture has believed that now for a very long time, and it's driven that idea into all sorts of moral destinations. You have your own truth as regards abortion, your own truth as regards gender identity, your own truth as regards the gender of the person you're going to marry, or your own truth as regards end-of-life issues, euthanasia, and so forth. And the culture just kind of decided that. Well, on the second level, when someone comes along like an evangelical Christian and says, well, you know, that's not what the Bible says, and that's certainly not what culture has believed for millennia. In fact, you're redefining marriage, you're redefining life, and you're doing so in a way that is really damaging to life and to marriage and to family. Well, that gets heard as intolerant and bigoted and prejudiced. And so in a Western culture that has decided tolerance is the ultimate value, if what you're believing out of your religion is intolerant, it's therefore dangerous. It'd be as though we were to discover that Jehovah's Witness physicians were not willing to offer blood transfusions to emergency room patients. We would say, well, that's dangerous, wouldn't we? We certainly felt like Al-Qaeda's radical Islam at 9/11 was dangerous. We would say that Hitler's anti-Semitism was dangerous, and understandably so, appropriately so. Obviously. Well, that's where our culture now has gotten relative to evangelical beliefs in the context of the mores of the day, that's dangerous and therefore is not to be tolerated. It's a misuse of religious freedom. And so religious freedom is itself in question in a culture like that. And that's where we find ourselves today.
But is religious freedom really a biblical concept? What does the Bible say about freedom?
Yeah, the Bible has a great deal to say about freedom, and it really, I think, works into three categories. The first category, especially as you get into the New Testament, is the concept that freedom isn't granted by the state in the ultimate sense. Anything the government gives you, the government can take away, you know? So the kind of religious freedom that the Roman Empire offered in the first century was basically essentially that you could worship any god you want as long as you're also loyal to the emperor. As long as you would at least once a year burn a pinch of incense to a bust of Caesar and say Caesar is Lord. You didn't have to mean that he was actually a god. Most of the emperors didn't believe that. Domitian might have at the end of the first century, but most of them didn't have that idea. It was more a loyalty oath. It was like saluting the flag in their context. And so you had to be willing to worship the emperor, the empire essentially as a god, in order to be able to have your own religion as well. That was their version of religious freedom. Well, early Christians clearly were not willing to do that. And so they were not granted religious tolerance, religious freedom when it came to the uniqueness of their faith in the context of Jesus as Lord. And they wouldn't say Caesar is Lord, they'd have to say Jesus is Lord. They said in Acts 4 that we must serve God rather than man. So they had a very different experience of religious freedom than we would in our culture today. Theirs would be very much similar to North Korea or communist China or Cuba or other places where you have to submit your religious beliefs to the authority of the state would be the idea. Well, the second thing I think you can say about freedom from a biblical perspective is that it is given by God in the context of his plan for humanity. God created us to love the Lord your God with your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. Well, love requires a choice. Love requires freedom. So from the Garden of Eden in the book of Genesis to today, God has given us freedom and chooses to honor that freedom that he's given us. It's another subject for another day to talk about sovereignty and freedom. And does God know the future? And if he does, then do we have freedom to choose? But I can see at this point that God chooses to honor the freedom he gives us, which is no denial of his sovereignty. He's created us with freedom. He honors that freedom so that we can use it to worship him. And that leads to the third biblical point I think we need to make, and that is that we clearly misuse our freedom from the fall to today. And so in order for our freedom to be healthy, for it to be exercised properly as God intends, it needs to be submitted to the lordship of Jesus and the influence of the Holy Spirit. We need every single day to ask the Spirit to lead us, to empower us, to fill us, to guide us. We submit our will to his. We submit our freedom to biblical truth and biblical plan for our lives. And when we do that, we experience our freedom on a greater level than we ever could ourselves. In John 8:26, Jesus says that if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. That's the ultimate freedom that we find when we submit to the lordship of Jesus.
So, how can Christians best use their religious freedom today?
Yeah, the first thing I think we'd want to do is recognize it as a gift. Having been to Cuba any number of times, having traveled in communist China, having been in many places in the Muslim world where religious freedom is not what we have today, let's not take this for granted. Let's utilize this as a gift from God that we have that can be used for a greater purpose, for a larger purpose. And that leads us on a second level to choose to express our freedom by speaking the truth in love. Ephesians 4:15. It's clear in Scripture that we are to be the witnesses of Jesus, that we're to make disciples of all nations, that we are to speak biblical truth to every situation, to every circumstance, that as 1 Peter 3 says, we're to be ready always to make a defense for the hope that's in us. The book of Jude speaks of defending that which has been handed down through the ages, that which is the orthodox truth of God's word. But as we do that, we're to do so with compassion and with grace. We're to speak the truth in love. At the end of the day, we can exercise our freedom best by submitting it to the God who gave that freedom to us. St. Augustine said, "Love the Lord and do as you will." If you will love the Lord with your heart, soul, mind, and strength, you'll be empowered to love your neighbor as yourself. And as you love God and as you love your neighbor, as you submit your freedom to God's will, you'll experience that freedom in a way that will change your life and change your world. And as you're submitted to the will of God, your freedom accomplishes his glory. And that is the invitation and the promise of God.